the chances are much higher that you will fail, you will turn bitter, you will hate entrepreneurship for the rest of your life. So yeah, the honest advice would be don't do this unless you just feel like you can't not do this, right? It's just that it's your mission. It's the only thing that you would want to do in your life, and that you're completely unemployable. You just hate working for someone else. You just feel this urge and nudge to create something that would serve people that you really respect.
Today I'm speaking with Ana Bibikova. Ana is an expert in the field of marketing. She has a ton of experience working with founders to help them grow their businesses and to better understand their customers. She's very active on Twitter, and I'd highly recommend following her there. Link to do that is in the description. And as you'll see from our conversation, Ana has this unique psychological lens through which she seems to look at the world and present her ideas that I find very interesting. If you're enjoying these conversations, make sure to like this video and to subscribe to the channel. You're listening to User Stories, episode number 13 with Ana Bibikova. Okay, Ana, thank you so much for coming on the show. You're someone who thinks a lot about marketing, and I'm curious to know, what do you see most solo founders or startups, let's say, screwing up on the marketing front?
Hello, Jacob. So excited to be here. Thank you for having me. Oh, wow. Where do I start with? There are so many mistakes. What I see happens most often is the first-time founders, or even the second-time founders, big teams or small teams, doesn't matter. They don't go that deep into understanding what their customers want or what their customers' end goal is. They simply approach their customers and ask, so what do you struggle with? Or what do you think is your main problem? Let me help. Let us help you solve this problem. Or even worse, they don't go to real people. They don't talk to them. They don't ask questions. They just go on social media and analyze Reddit groups. They just pull out a bunch of data from these groups and they do this analysis. What kind of words were mentioned more often and more frequent than the others? They create this nice pie chart or a graph, and they see that, for example, one specific word is mentioned more often, like better milkshake, and they start working on building a better milkshake without even considering the necessity to talk to these people. So just listening to what the people say on social media and taking their words at the face value is not the way to build a product that people would love. So the best and the most, and actually the only right way to do it is to go out there to talk to people who you consider to be your prospects, your potential customers, and figure out all different things about them, like what is the job to be done, how they think about possible solutions, what their stage of awareness about solutions on the market, what their stage of awareness about the problem, because many people just don't even consider that they have a problem. They don't even know that. There was a big research with the fast food chain. Some people say it was McDonald's, or maybe it wasn't. The story is that the fast food chain wanted to boost the turnover of the milkshakes they were selling. They tried everything. They tried discounts. They tried different flavors. They tried to improve they tried to improve the pricing. They tried to improve the product. They tried different flavors. They tried different packages, like smaller, larger, maybe better branding, make the cups not transparent or white, but green or yellow or purple or whatever. But nothing worked. And nothing helped them improve the revenue and the sales numbers of these milkshakes. So they just called a research team, and the research team, what they did, they mostly just observed people who were choosing the milkshakes And they stayed there in the sales point of this company for like several weeks, doing this field research, just observing. Then on the next stage, they started approaching these people who were purchasing milkshakes, and they asked a bunch of very simple questions like about their roles, what did they do before they came over here, and what are they planning to do now. They didn't ask why did you buy the milkshake, right? Or what do you like about our milkshake? Or what do you think we should improve to make our milkshakes better? What people usually ask their customers. That's what they ask. They try to figure out the job to be done, right? What is the end goal? What is the background of this person who was the perfect customer of the milkshake? It turned out that these people who purchased, pretty often they started seeing the pattern, and they figured out that people who purchased milkshakes, they were mostly commuters who had to start their shift very early in the morning. They didn't have time to eat properly their breakfast, so they just rushed to work and they grabbed a milkshake on their way because it was very easy to hold this cup in one hand and hold the rail or something in the public transportation. And it was covered with elite, so no chances to ruin your outfit or make your neighbor all dirty and covered in mustard and ketchup, for example, if they purchased hot dog or something like that. And also, it was very nutritious and sweet and provided a lot of energy, and it helped them to last until the lunchtime. So obviously, improving the packages, making the color better, or adding all different flavors, it wasn't the answer to that question, right? The job to be done was to make a purchase fast and purchase something very nutritious, something that they could use to consume while traveling or commuting to their office. And even better, if they can leave it, put it on the table to last for some time and last until lunch. So as soon as they got to the research team got to the insights, they offered their recommendation, and the milkshake company, they started an application that offered these people an opportunity to pre-order a milkshake and kind of skips the line, not stay in the queue with other customers, but just enter, get the milkshake and go away. So they saved their time. Also, they started opening just very small sales points near metro stations and public transportation, maybe vending machines, where they could just purchase the milkshakes and nothing else. And obviously, these tactics helped to increase the sales maybe 10, maybe 20 times, because it was the answer to the job to be done. It wasn't something that founders of the company decided maybe that's what our customers want, or that maybe we should improve our branding because everyone does it. They did the research, they figured out the requirements, they figured out what exactly their product was used for, not the pain points, but what it was used for, what kind of job this product was doing, or if you please, what was the job the customers hired the product to do, right? Because if you pay your money for something, for a product or a service, you hire this product or a service to do some kind of job.
Right. Well, I was thinking as you were speaking, we often think about a business and all of the components of a business, like let's say marketing, sales, in my world, like development and UI UX design. We often think about these as very different tasks that need to be done. But what's amazing as I hear you speak, and as I've spoken with other people who are experts in different areas, is really all of these areas, what makes the best product and what makes you the most successful in whatever area you're in seems to be, and I hear you saying this too in your answer, really just like listening and empathizing with whoever is going to be using your product, right? I was reminded too, as you were giving an example, I heard one recently, and this is a little bit different because it has to do with airports. So this one guy, I forget his name, but he was tasked, I guess, this one airport. I forget the airport too. I think it was an airport in London. But anyways, they had terrible, terrible reviews, terrible, terrible wait times. And this one guy, they brought him in. He was this expert in human psychology to reduce the amount of negative reviews they were receiving. And a lot of the negative reviews, again, had to do with just the long, unexpected wait times. And so they, spent a lot of time just studying what was going on here. And before they had this one plan, I think, that was going to cost a lot of money and take a lot of time, that they were hoping would reduce the amount of negative reviews they were receiving. And this one guy instead was like, before we do this, let's just try to put these signs up that when there is a long lineup, like at an amusement park or something, when you see a sign that's like, from this point, 30 minutes until you're at the window, from this point, 15 minutes, and so on. So all they did was they put these signs up that communicated how long the wait time would be at whatever point in line you were at. And it significantly reduced, just that alone, significantly reduced the amount of negative reviews they were receiving at that airport. And what's amazing about that is, like, I think it relates back to what you're saying in terms of just understanding who your user is. It's weird to talk about people who are going to the airport as users, but in that case, I guess they are. But really, like, deeply understanding the user. It's not so much in that example that the long wait was the problem. It's more like not knowing how long you're going to wait, and that those unknowns that are causing those negative reviews, right?
I love this example, but it actually refers to a very different field of marketing. It's not about, knowing your person, because honestly speaking, let's face it, no one likes to wait in the long
Right.
line. It's not like something unique to the airports user, or I don't know, milkshake consumers. Like, no one in the whole world would say, I'm excited to queue up and wait for something, right? So it's kind of general human trait. It's not about, this particular example is a very good one, but it's not exactly about like knowing your user. It's about knowing the psychology of people. And there are lots of things that have been done around behavioral marketing and behavioral economics in the recent years. For example, if you enter a store and you see an outfit that costs like 160 bucks, or a new t-shirt that costs 160 bucks, you think it's a crazy idea. I would never buy something like that for that much. But then you go through that and you see regular t-shirts that cost, I don't know, 10, 15, 18. And your subconscious, it kind of thinks it's a great deal. Your hidden brain, your hidden mind, basically subconscious part, and it's a big part of our everyone's personality. Like, most of the decisions that we make throughout the day are automated. Just thinking, logical thinking, is a very, very labor intense process. Our brain is extremely lazy. It always wants to make these little shortcuts, like how we depend on social proof, why we trust all these reviews, why we like believe that someone, an influencer on social media who's an expert, like in growing on Twitter, they would also know a lot of useful things about marketing, about building business, about writing books, about a bunch of things, just because they grew their account on Twitter. We kind of trust them with all the other questions and all the other problems we might have in our life. Because our brain makes a shortcut. This guy or this gal, they created kind of a successful beeline from 0 to, I don't know, 100K followers. So they probably know a bunch of things. I can follow the advice on all other different subjects. So these little things are very important, and they relate to customer psychology in general, how we behave as a species, how we behave as humans, because that's how our brain works. This thing that you mentioned about the example that you discussed, how
Airports.
they put
Yeah.
this, the countdown on the for people to see while they were queuing up. It is in general the part of our human psychology, because, as I said, no one likes to stay in the line. Uh, Other things that would fall in the same category is how, for example, the endowment effect works, or it's also called the IKEA effect, when you actually invest your effort into
Oh yeah,
building
yeah, right.
something, you kind of assign it a higher value, right? So founders who build in public online, they share their struggles, their journey on Twitter, and they ask their audience for support to contribute to the ideas to the product. They cause this endowment effect in people who actually follow them.
Wow, that's so fascinating. I had never like I keep seeing the build in public movement picking up, and I've talked about it before on this podcast and have tried to understand it psychologically, but I've never thought about it from that perspective. So what you're saying, I think, is that by sharing what you're building in public and getting feedback, what you're doing, or part of what's going on at least, is that the people who are giving you feedback, sorry, what was it? The
They're
IKEA
more
effect?
invested.
Yeah, they're invested in it. So they're
Yeah, that's why
actually
it's called
like, right,
endowment effect,
right.
endowment, like an endowment fund, that because people feel more invested in your product. The same thing when you're building the product as a founder, the best thing that you can do is to actually sign up beta users to contribute to your product, provide their feedback on every single step, and even if they not become paying users on the later stages, they will support this product. They will amplify your message. They will be like your loyal followers, and they will try their best to spread the word around about the brand. They will recommend you to someone else. They will try to bring more business. So the more you engage people, the more they reciprocate with creating business opportunities for you. That's how it works.
That's fascinating. Okay, so there's a few things that you just mentioned there, just let's say human psychology in general, that make this next topic that I want to touch on, I think, more interesting. It's already very interesting to me. I've been obsessed with it. But I want to start by reading a quote that you wrote, or a tweet that you made back in November. It says, "Content is becoming AI based. Does that mean content marketing can't be your competitive advantage? Consider this. AI can build a content machine, not relationships. Leverage your human nature by being human. Be genuine. Be imperfect. Be vulnerable. That's how you win." So I guess I have a few questions about this, but first, just kind of teeing off of what you just said about human beings and the way that our brain works, looking for just the way that we look for shortcuts naturally. When you were giving examples of like quickly looking at someone on social media, seeing their follower count, and just your brain kind of says, okay, well, this person must be trustworthy or an authority in whatever space they're in, right? When we have this tool, then like, Chat GPT, for example, that allows us to create stuff really fast that we might have otherwise like written ourselves, let's say marketing content, whatever it is. How does that affect marketers going forward in terms of the content that they produce? Do you think that people are going to be looking for those shortcuts? Do you think it's going to be a big part of content marketing going forward? I guess just generally, again, you tweeted this back in November. And since then, in the past, we're recording right now, December 14th. And even just in the past few weeks, it seems like the world has become obsessed with advancements in AI and also amazed at just how powerful this stuff is becoming. So has your opinion changed at all since you tweeted that? And how do you see advancements in AI affecting people in your space in general?
Honestly, my opinion hasn't changed at all. I kind of tweeted maybe last week on the same topic, something very similar in the messaging. I said that kind of people get concerned again with this AI new wave going higher and higher every single time. The products that OpenAI or other companies ship, they get more advanced and better in terms of outcome. And many people, every time it happens, and a new like decent product is being launched, people start complaining or being concerned that AI will steal their jobs. But I just honestly don't understand why people get concerned about it, because AI, especially something that's related to text creation, to content creation, right? The chatbot, GPT 3, or AI generated products like Copy AI, in general, it can generate these tools. They're just the tools. They can generate content, but they can't tell you how good it is, or is it any good at all. So the ultimate judge of the quality is still a human being. Even with all these tools that are being shipped, people start discussing them and they start kind of labeling them or putting a tag. This product is more advanced than another one. So it's not like machines are deciding what are we supposed to use, right? It's again human beings who are who are in ultimate control. On the other hand, what you said, the tweet that you quoted about building a relationship, obviously, it's a very, very important thing that many people who just start using social media, they completely miss on the whole idea of it, right? They want to grow their following without understanding that following means nothing if there is no human connection behind it, right? You can be followed by a bunch of bots or a bunch of fake accounts or people who don't care about what you're doing just because you're a name or a celebrity or whatever. But as soon as you want to launch a product, again, no endowment effect will be created. There is no investment from these people's side. There is no engagement. They don't root for you. They don't care about you. They just absentmindedly smash like because you're a big name, but they don't really care what you're doing. So if there is no human connection built behind all this, chase of the numbers of the following game, then it makes absolutely no commercial sense. Again, if you use social media to grow your business or to get better customer insight as well, as Arvid Kahl calls an embedded entrepreneur,
I'm
right?
reading his book right now.
To get to amazing. It's one of my favorites. So you get in the community, you get the vibes, you get their languaging, you understand what they're living with, what they're talking about, and you build on this narrative. You leverage this narrative to build a product that would answer their desires and their demand. And the third thing to mention around this quote is being imperfect. And again, it's bringing us back to the human psychology. There is a name for this. It's called, how is it called? Pratfall. It's called Pratfall effect.
What is that? Sorry?
Pratfall effect.
Okay.
So it's an effect that people actually remember things that stand out. And another way to stand out is to be imperfect. For example, in a very small details. For example, you go to the job interview and you're one of 30, 50 candidates who will be interviewed the day. And like in the office, you spill a bottle of iced tea on your t-shirt. You will be definitely remembered, definitely. So when they start if you have the same skills as other candidates, just this little imperfection makes you stand out. On the other hand,
is that just because everyone's always trying to be perfect though too? So I mean the example that you just gave is a good one because most people are gonna wear clean clothes. No, it's not
because of that. It's because we are programmed to feel emotional about relatable things.
Okay.
And because we know deep inside our hearts that we are imperfect, right? So we always relate to imperfection. The perfect things can be admired like a masterpiece in the museum, but you can't be passionate about it. You can't be emotional about it. You can't love it. You can't hate it. You can't kind of want to hire this person who is imperfect. You can't want it for yourself because it's a masterpiece. It's something perfect. You can just look from far aside and admire and respect or whatever. It's just something that's not alive. And imperfection is a part of being human. It's a part of being alive. That's why being imperfect causes this effect that people start relate to who you are and what you're doing. And yeah, that's a very big part of human psychology. So even if you put out imperfect content and you make typos and mistakes all the time, it's not a bad thing. It's actually a good thing, because maybe it will be one of the things that you will be remembered for.
Yeah, well, you're making me feel better because I often feel like I stumble over my words in these podcasts. But one thing too, like I noticed it, I felt myself drawn towards your story because you mentioned this a little bit earlier, and I was listening to your background on a different podcast that you were on. But back when you were running your own chain of retail stores, things are looking good on paper. You guys are growing. You have more and more customers coming in, and you're managing about a team of like 50 employees, I think you said. But behind the scenes, you said that you're miserable, right? You're in a position that you aren't enjoying. You have to manage all of these people, which you said doesn't come naturally to you. And eventually it gets like so bad that you hit a depression and you just hit a wall and have to stop. I was wondering if you could like take me back to that moment, because I think that a lot of people can probably empathize with being in that situation where, you know, you're building this business and you are doing things that you think you're supposed to be doing and you're growing, but you're not enjoying that role that you're in as a CEO, let's say. I've certainly been there myself. I haven't managed a team of lots of people, but I've been in a role that I was like aiming for, I guess, in a way, that ended up being something that I really didn't enjoy. So what was it like for you in that moment? Was there still a part of you that was like kind of grappling with, kind of battling inside, being like, hey, I was working towards this. Maybe I can change the way that I'm handling this situation and allow my business to grow and get to that next stage of growth while being in a better position that's more sustainable for me personally? Or was it just so bad where you're like, I know that this is not for me, I need to do something else? What was that like?
It was an actually very painful experience, and unfortunately, I still don't know the answer. Like, what would I do differently if I got back to these years, right? With all the knowledge that I have now, with all the things that I went through, and all the thoughts that I gave to this experience, I still don't know what I would have done differently. Um, if I had to be painfully honest, I think it's not just the fact that I turned out to be a total control freak and a horrible leader, right? Because I was doing my job as a leader better, I would maybe delegate more, right, and let go and trust people with what they're doing. But on the other hand, I believe it's also a part of the decision that many founders have to take, when to stop and when to quit, because it's a no-brainer when your business doesn't generate any revenue, right? If you just build something and you go out there and you try to find customers and they don't come, and you try harder and there is still nothing, and maybe you gained one or two, but they churned after a couple of months, and they only stayed with you because they were your mom's friend. Uh, it's much tougher when you kind of generate something, but you're not doing it good enough or just enough to hire again this very, very decent top players, right? Who would remove the burden from your shoulders and who would you trust enough to delegate part of the responsibilities. So you have to make this, to sacrifice the quality of your employees. You have to sacrifice the quality of your team, because you don't have enough revenue, you don't have enough turnover to acquire better talent, and because they don't deliver, you have to cover over them. You have to stay always behind their shoulder. You always have to control them, and you always have to make sure that you're like staying up to date. You just can't let it go, because you deep inside your heart, you know these people should be trusted. They wouldn't do their job good enough because you're not paying them enough. And yeah, I think that's the ultimate honest answer everyone, every founder or every um, executive, every manager, as it was in my case, have to to give to themselves. When is the right time to stop? Will you be will you be better off doing something else? Or should you carry on with this stuff that for some reason is not growing? And why it's not growing? Is it because you're not good enough at managing things? Is it not growing good enough, fast enough because your product is not good enough? Is it not growing fast enough because you're targeting wrong customers? But because you're constantly, submerged in this daily routine of managing people and just running day-to-day operation, you don't have time to stop and think. And you kind of feel trapped because you have to find time to be honest with yourself and find answer for these very important basic questions, like about the future of the business. But you can't find it because you feel like if you stop for a moment, everything will fall apart. So that's why I still don't have an answer for this. But I know that if other people kind of face this burnout, face this the understanding that they're trapped, they just have to stop. Nothing will fall apart for a week or two, or at least it wouldn't be that bad as you think. Even if you don't get customers for a month, your business will probably survive that stress. And we know like how many businesses survive coronavirus, right? And most of them, they they didn't have customers for many days, weeks, and even months. So what again? It's another psychological trick our mind makes. We always assign the value, higher value to doing something than the value of not doing anything. So we think that the cost of actually stopping the business, right? Stopping the world in its tracks, just stopping doing anything, it will cost us much more than just carry on in the way it already is, just keeping on with the status quo. We think that it will cost us much less, but in reality, it's all the other way around. If we just stick with the status quo, if we don't change anything, if we don't stop and think what is actually the main issue here, why the business is not growing, why you're not getting to the numbers that you want to get, then if you just take this break for several weeks and analyze everything from all the points and getting back to the beginning of our conversation, learning more about your customers, understanding, are you actually answering to their demand with your product? Are you actually delivering to them what they're looking for? Are you actually trying to sell them the milkshakes because they want these milkshakes uh, to feel better,
Nutritious value,
nutritious,
right?
yes,
Right.
nutritious
Right.
until the lunchtime, or are you just trying to offer them better packaging? So that's what the most important thing that should be analyzed if you feel stuck. Do you actually do you actually doing a good job fulfilling the desires of your customers? Or if you're not doing that, then you have to pivot.
I was reminded when I was listening to your story just here now, and then the first time I heard it on a different podcast that you were on, of my girlfriend's friend. She has a close friend who started a bakery during the pandemic, and it's an amazing story. Like Korean immigrants coming to Canada, starting a bakery during the pandemic. They're still learning English. And they knock it out of the park. Like the bread is so good. All of their baking products are amazing. Within a couple of months, they had like lineups out the door, and they're a huge success here in Calgary, where I am. But they struggled with delegation too, knowing firsthand what she was telling me. they didn't trust employees to come in and put as much care and love into the bread as they did, obviously. And it got to a point where it was like, it was just terrible for them. They were sleeping like 3 hours a night. They were miserable. And just like a couple of months ago, they decided after a few years to shut it down. And watching it from the sidelines, it was so devastating to me. I mean, number one, because I loved their bread and I was a regular customer, but number two, to just know that story, to see all of the effort they put in and to see that struggle and to know how hard it is to build something like that people genuinely love and are willing to kind of like line up outside of the door and wait for. It was devastating for me to see, because looking at it from the sidelines, the answer seemed in my mind to be so obvious, where it's like, you just need to hire people and take some of the strain off of yourselves. Like you're miserable, but if you had other people doing a lot of the stuff that you're doing right now, it would give you some time to think about things. But at the same time, I consider myself to be a little bit of a control freak too. And I've felt that in myself before, where I just have a really hard time delegating. So what is it going on, going back to good old human psychology? I'm curious to get your opinion. What's going on there? Why do we have such a hard time delegating beyond just being a perfectionist?
There is a very like oldie but goodie and a very old book. It's called Myth, about the very obvious basic things, how to build. You know this quote everyone repeats and use it here and there, like you have to work on your business rather than to work in your business, right? So that this book, MS, it was written maybe in 70s, then it was rewritten closer to 2000. It is really old, but the concept is still there. So when you're building a business, you have to balance all different roles, not just being entrepreneur, but also being a manager, and also what role, the craftsman, right? So you have to know the secrets of the trade. That's how the top quality bread appears, right? You have to be a very, very good craftsman. You have to understand how the dough will behave, what the impact of the temperature and all this stuff. You have to be an entrepreneur to figure out what's the right location for the bakery, what channels to use to get people informed about it, especially with the pandemic, they're not going out. What social media or other channels would you use to let them know that there is a new bakery over the corner? But also, you have to be a manager. On top of that, it's not enough to be just innovative and good at what you're doing. It's not enough to be like great in marketing and developing a product, but you have to be a manager as well to just put together job descriptions, to standardize procedures, to build models like and workflows and automations, how we go from A to B, how we go from zero to there, how if we, because in general, every trade can be like standardized into a number of steps. Like to cook a perfect bread, you have to take 1 teaspoon of that and 2 teaspoons of this and 3 tablespoons of that. And you have to wait exactly 14 minutes and 3 seconds. And then you start like mixing. I don't know. I'm just making this stuff up. I've never cooked bread in my life. But because you referred to this example, I'm kind of playing around with it. So that's what you have to do to build a successful business, because only the management, you can create a great product, you can't use amazing channels and reach your first customers very fast, but the only part of this that is scalable is management part. So until you start like putting stuff together in an Excel sheet or a Notion or some other thing where you can track all the procedures, where there will be, whenever a person joins the team, no questions will be raised. What do I do with the new customer? Or where do I put an existing customer and who is part of our loyalty program? Where do I check up their discount? Or how do I apply a discount when they, for example, last time they came over and they then made a return? Do I have to apply a discount again or not? Or, for example, if they buy a bunch of bread buns or pastries or whatever, do I have to apply the same discount or do I have to make it? So every single context, every single situation should be explained and put on the paper or somewhere in the cloud, ideally. So this part is especially tough because again, trying to balance all the like, it's like working a jungler. You have to jungle the entrepreneurship part, and you have to jungle the marketing part, the craftsman part. But you also have to find time for the managerial part. And that's exactly where I failed in particular, and where many people fail in particular. They either can't handle it by themselves, or they don't realize it soon enough that this part should be handled until they start growing really fast, and then they just completely drown in the number of, they kind of have so many customers. We say that's a great problem to have, but it's not. No, it's not great, because if you stop sleeping just to serve to your customers, it's not a good framework, right? It's not a good arrangement if you don't have enough sleep for that, because of that. So yeah, the managerial part, they just don't realize that this part should be handled as well. And again, they don't have enough funds to hire someone who would do it properly. So that's also a big reason why businesses fail. And let's face it, being a founder, being entrepreneur, being innovator is not the easiest way to make money. It's not the get rich framework, right? It's not like overnight success. You just start a business and the next day you wake up a millionaire. That's not how it happens. It's one of the toughest roles in the world, one of the most challenging, and for a reason, because you have to balance so many jobs, so many roles. It implies so many responsibilities that actually very few people can handle it properly. That's what I think.
Last question for you. If you had to give one piece of advice to someone who is thinking about starting their first venture, going down that path of entrepreneurship, the number one most important thing for them to keep in mind during those times where everything seems like it's not working out and they don't know what to do next, but they're just in a world of stress, what's that one piece of advice that you would give to them to keep in mind?
I don't know. It's a tough question again. I wanted to come up with. I would love to come up with like some kind of nice quote or an easy answer, but my honest advice would be don't do that.
Just don't go down the entrepreneurship road.
Don't go onto the entrepreneurship road, because it's definitely, again, as I said, not the easiest lifestyle. It's not for everyone, and it's okay that there is so many misconceptions and myths created around it, again, on social media. Like we think that being an entrepreneur is cool, it's amazing, it's just the best thing that you can do to start your own business. But it's not that. It's not like that, right? Much more people actually fail with this task than succeed. And so what are your chances is like 50 people before you failed and just one succeeded. So what are your chances that you will join this very, very rare and small group of leaders? The chances are much higher that you will fail, you will turn bitter, you will hate entrepreneurship for the rest of your life. So yeah, the honest advice would be don't do this unless you just feel like you can't not do this, right? It's just that it's your mission. It's the only thing that you would want to do in your life, and that you're completely unemployable. You just hate working for someone else. You just feel this urge and nudge to create something that would serve people that you really respect. And that would be my maybe second part of advice. Really make the chat. If if you respect your customers, if you genuinely admire people you're going to serve, because it's not something, as I mentioned, as we all know, that success doesn't happen over time. So you will be stuck with these people for maybe months and years ahead. And if you don't like this crowd, if you don't feel yourself a part of it, if you feel that you're so much higher and better than everyone else, then it's not going to work. Pretty soon, you will feel frustrated that, oh, these people are so dumb. I just hate them. I wish they were catching up faster on my brilliant ideas. I wish they knew that they have been doing this all wrong, all these years. I wish they understood much faster that what I'm suggesting is like a game changer. If you have these thoughts, then entrepreneurship is not for you. You have to admire and respect people you're going to serve. If you think that they are so much dumber than you, that they're so much slower than you, then it's not the right way to start the business.
Well, Anna, thank you so much for the advice. Thank you for coming on the podcast. I'm really enjoying following you on Twitter and seeing all of the different tweets that you put out, in particular the ones about human psychology. They always teach me something that I didn't know before. And I'd encourage everyone to go follow Anna on Twitter too. All of the links for that are in the description. Anna, thanks, and talk to you soon.
Thank you so much, Jacob. Have a lovely day.
Bye-bye, everyone.